Welcome into the Inside Arkansas Football. We're actually going to be changing the name to this. We'll talk about that in a second. But today's episode is presented by BetSaracen. It's Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. So download it on your iPhone or Android device or go to BetSaracen.com. BetSaracen, proud partner of us here at Inside Arkansas. I am Curtis Wilkerson, joined by Andrew Ellis as always. So, okay, usually our Sundays are reserved for our post-game accountability session where we take a look back at our pregame bold predictions and our challenges. And we do our report card where we assign position grades from the day before's game. We're still going to do all that in a consolidated format here, but we're also adding a segment for what everyone really cares about, which is this coaching search stuff. So, how the candidates fared over the weekend, notable happenings, a look around the country's carousel because it's getting crazy. Just a bit of a weekend wrap up because we are now forced to keep up with like a dozen different names there. So I have no idea what we're going to title this. We'll talk about it after we finish recording it, but it is a thing. So make sure you stick around for that little addition to the programming here later in the show. But Andrew, Arkansas loses a one-score game to Texas A&M at home Saturday, 45-42. Nice little backdoor cover by the boys there. I think I know the answer to this question, but as always, before we get rolling, I have to ask, after sleeping on it briefly, as I understand, how are we feeling about what went down at Razorback Stadium on Saturday?
So I don't feel terribly dissimilar than how I felt on our postgame show last night when our sentiment was basically, hey, another close loss, another good effort, another, you can give them the credit for hanging in there. They fought tough. They were competitive. They've battled adversity multiple points in this game, which is nice to see. There's no quit in the team. That's also nice to see. But I also did not come away from it with a vastly different stance on how that affects the overall big picture outlook of this program and the job opening and where Bobby Petrino fits in. And so I kind of find myself after 2 games of the interim head coach Bobby Petrino era thinking, man, he's doing a good job. He's keeping these guys on board, but it's going to take a whole lot more for him to really change this discussion. I've seen on the internet, on Al Gore's internet, I've been seeing a lot of people are still very polarizing here. Like there's a lot of people who after 2 games are like ready to literally give Bobby the job and like remove the interim tag right now. And then the people that hate Bobby are even more, infuriated that this is even a conversation. They think we should just stop talking about it altogether. And once again, I find myself right in the middle. And so nothing's changed last night. Nothing's changed overall about the big picture outlook of this whole thing. But I do think there's some good things that happened for Arkansas yesterday, but ultimately not enough to really write home about.
This is what happens when nothing definitive takes place, It's just kind of the same old, but if they were winning games or if they were getting their doors blown off, it'd be a lot easier to figure this out. But of course, Arkansas is not going to make it easy on anyone here. And so that's where we're at. But let's talk about this game. Let's dive into our report card. We'll go rapid fire report card compared to what we usually do because I know how people feel about all this. Actually, before we do that, I want to ask you one question, and then we'll get into our grades. But Texas A&M as a football team, where would you place them on the hierarchy of competition that Arkansas has faced this year? Because I'm having a hard time, I think, creating a pecking order, not just in the SEC, but throughout the country. Like Miami just lost to Louisville, weird stuff going on all over the country. But Texas A&M team came in undefeated. They left undefeated, but they're sitting at the top of the SEC. They're 7-0, and they're going to be a top 3 team in the country when the polls refresh here. Did you feel like Arkansas just played, a national championship contender yesterday, or are they benefiting from a schedule, although they've got some nice wins mixed in there? Where do you land on Texas A&M?
So I think A&M's clearly, they're 7-0 or whatever. They're good. They can't confirm they're good. I think they're pretty similar to Tennessee. And honestly, they're, if you watch Arkansas play Ole Miss, I think they're probably in that same tier a little bit. But I do wonder now, after also having watched Alabama really put it on Tennessee yesterday in a game that really wasn't that close for most of it. You saw Georgia lose to Ole Miss, a game that Ole Miss controlled most of it. I think that's kind of fitting where A&M is right in line with Tennessee and Ole Miss, and I would even argue the best of those 3 teams. I think they're a little bit more well-rounded, but I still think they're probably a slight step down from the teams that are really going to compete for a national title, which are Georgia and Bama. And I still think Georgia and Bama are the cream of the crop when it comes to SEC team.
Yeah, I think they're going to be able to escape the Texas 8-4 thing this year, but I don't think they're going to run the table. I think they're still going to take a couple L's here in the regular season. They'll probably get in the playoff, but we'll see. We'll see what it winds up looking like. Anyway, on to our report card. We'll start with the offense as always, and we'll start at the quarterback position as always. Taylon Green for the Razorbacks. Let me pull up his stat line here. He finished 19 of 32 passing, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Didn't put it on the turf, which you love to see. He had 11 rushes for 86 yards. I believe that he lost 46 yards via the sack, by the way. So that's kind of crazy. In a lot of ways, I thought he was electric. You know, Arkansas made that run, and at halftime, it was Mike Elko saying, listen, we've got to find a way to contain Taylon Green. Like, we just have to if we're going to win this football game. It was clear that he was going to be the guy that they had to key in on, or they were going to walk out of there with a loss. So you like that. You like some of the plays. Some of the drives that he put together were awesome. Some of the plays that he made with his legs were awesome. Missed the throw on the 4th down. Well, he didn't even make the throw on the 4th down to Rohan, who was streaking down there. Took some. It's one thing to take a sack, and I know part of it's your offensive line or your guys picking up on the blocking front there, but the spin moves and then losing 18, 20 yards on a sack. That's crazy work there, but I just feel like if it wasn't for Taylon Green being able to come back in that game after we thought that he was hurt and make some of the plays that he did, even with the bad there, Arkansas would have gotten their doors blown off in this one. I went A- for Taylon only because there has to, I'm not going to give him an A+ if you didn't win the game, and I'm not going to give you an A if you lose 46 yards on a sack and you miss a wide open touchdown. There was slight room for improvement. Personally, though, I thought he was really, really good in this game.
Yeah, so I'm glad you went the direction you went because I agree for the most part. I have B+ mostly for when you think about Taylon Green, it's kind of the same thing every week in terms of he's really good, he's really dynamic, he's really effective, but then there's like a handful of plays somewhere between 2 to 6 that are just inexcusable, unacceptable. You don't know how to make sense of them. You're so angry watching them happen. And those plays would include the 4th and 1 where they have it drawn up for Rohan Jones to take a shot over the top. He has 3 steps on the guy. He didn't pull the trigger. Okay, like that's not the end of the world, but that's a knock on your resume. You had the 20-yard sack to start the drive at the 25-yard line where I think Arkansas had just gone down 11. So where it's like you kind of need a score right there to stay in the game. You take a 20-yard sack right off the bat, like that's a really tough one. And then Arkansas ended up punting from their own 5 in that situation. In a situation where they would have gone for it if they had been anywhere close, you end up punting. That's a tough one. I thought Taylon Green was tough. It was good. I mentioned they're coming back from adversity. He did that in this game, which I thought was good because we don't really see a ton of that. You could tell he was a much better, much older, much more mature version of the guy that we saw against A&M last year. And I don't blame him in any way, shape, or form. Like I think Arkansas scored 42. He did his job. He put Arkansas on a very good position to win the game, and his defense let him down. I just went B+ just because of the 4 plays that make you want to pull your hair out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, brother. The running back room. I'll read the stats. I'll let you throw your grade out there first. Mike Washington, man, 16 carries, 147 yards. I can't believe he didn't get into the end zone. He also had 3 receptions for 16. Braylon Russell in this game only had 4 carries, but 36 yards on those 4 carries. So between your 2 running backs, you averaged over 9 yards per carry. Add Taylon into the mix with all things considered. Arkansas averaged 8.4 yards per rush on a Texas A&M defense. It's been pretty damn good throughout the course of the year there. Interesting stuff. But at any rate, what do you think about the running backs yesterday?
I thought they were awesome, man. I think Mike Washington, who, by the way, Mike Washington's 2nd now in the SEC, 671 rushing yards. He's had back-to-back, like, really impressive games against legitimate competition. Like, maybe not the most stout defenses in the country, but 2 top 15 teams, legitimate tests, 1 on the road, 1 at home. Mike Washington, he's not only a legit SEC back, he might be one of the best backs in the SEC. Like, the guy's been really good. So, Curtis, we were talking about PFF before we went live and how PFF really did not grade out Arkansas's offensive line positively at all, was really hard on them. I think PFF is of the belief that Arkansas's running backs and Taylon Green made things happen that weren't necessarily there, that the offensive line didn't necessarily create for them. And I'm inclined to agree with them. I'm not going to sit there and grade out every performance, but there's a lot of times where if there's 3 inches worth of a hole, Mike Washington's going to find his way through it. Thought Braylon ran tough. I got to be honest, Arkansas's running backs have been really impressive to me. Like I thought yesterday was a really good game. I'm sure there were some things I didn't love if I went back and really scanned through, but like I give them a very high grade. Like I don't know how I could give them anything lower than like A minus.
Yeah, I think I'm in that A minus range for them as well. They were good, man. They certainly were. Mike Washington's starting to look like the guy that we heard about throughout the entire spring and fall camp, and the home run threat, all that stuff. He had 5 carries for 71 yards on the opening drive. Mike Washington did, and that's why I was surprised at the end of the game when he only had 147 yards there. And I know he had a little bit as a receiving threat, but I didn't really get the sense that he was getting bottled up there much. But as I look at his carry load after that first drive, it is kind of interesting. 2 yards, -4, 0. Oh, then he pops off a 57-yarder. 1, 8, 4, 11. So he kind of got it going then, but it's -2, 0, -1 on the carries there at the end. So still a little bit of that boom or bust, but and maybe because of some of that impacts the run block grades a little bit, like you were talking about, because all I could remember was the huge holes or whatever. And Mike Washington's breaking off these huge runs, and Taylon's getting loose for all this stuff. And I'm thinking, good Lord, the offensive line must be doing their job. I didn't think they were bad in this game. Well, hell, why don't we just go ahead and transition to them, actually? I didn't think they were bad in this game. I didn't think they were great. I didn't think they were perfect. Initially, I had them graded out. I was thinking, all right, am I going to be in like a B+ or A- range here? Then I went to PFF and I let them influence me. I'm not going to lie. Like I started looking at the grades there and I'm thinking, good grief, man, did these guys do anything right? But the more I thought about it, I'm still not that messed up about the run blocking, but I think about the pass block, and they kept mentioning, and of course now I forget his name. Let me pull it up real quick. The dude for Texas A&M, Cassius Howell. They kept talking about him, and it was like every other play, and he didn't even have that huge of a game, but man, it felt like he was back there harassing Talon at all times, and they had a really, really tough time dealing with him off the edge there. 4 sacks is a lot. 8 TFLs is a lot. That's also right in line with what Texas A&M averages over the course of the season, no matter who they're playing. So I don't know. Say what you want about that for Arkansas, just kind of holding up about as well as anyone else has against them. I'll drop a little bit there. I would really have to go back, I think, and watch and just really watch the trenches every single play. But I do remember Mr. Kittler having a hell of a time there on a number of plays. I know that Corey Robinson had a really rough day at the office, at least from a grading standpoint. I also remember Marion Harris struggling containing the edge a number of times there. But still, when you average 9 yards carry and you have over 500 yards of offense and stuff, it's hard for me to be too harsh on them. I'm going to give them a B here at the end of the day, but I will say the grading scale there surprised me from PFF.
I'm going to go with B as well, and I'm with you in my assessment that like I give the running backs a little bit more credit. I mean, I just did that, but I also am not quite buying the PFF notion that they were like just horrible in run block and got bailed out. You mentioned A&M's sack production. They're one of the best front sevens in the league. They've been one of the better front sevens, best pass rushers in the league. Last week, you face a really good Tennessee pass rush. You give up 5 sacks. This week, you face a Tennessee pass rush. You give up 4 sacks. I can see how you would look at that from a bird's eye view and say, okay, so this offensive line has gotten exposed, not been able to hang up against the best of the best in the SEC. But if you watch the game, and like you said, well, maybe we'll go back and watch and feel differently. Play to play, drive to drive, I thought they held up pretty well. Like on 3rd and 9s, they kind of knew, all right, hey, we have to hunker down here and make sure we give Talon a clean pocket. I thought Talon had plenty of time to operate most of the night. But you look at it at the end of the day, you end up with 4 sacks. Most of those kind of came late as Arkansas was in desperation mode. I think Will Campbell, the Patriots offensive lineman, he says if you get 1 sack a game as a defensive lineman, you're going to the Hall of Fame. If you give up 1 sack a game as an offensive lineman, you're working at Amazon. And so I think about that all the time where I'm like, man, you could be so good for so many snaps of this game, but 4 snaps is all it takes for those 4 sacks to pop up. And so those happen, and I'm not trying to dismiss them. But for the most part, I thought consistently Arkansas's offensive line held up pretty well. And like I said, 42 points, man. I just really don't know how I'm going to sit here and be like, yeah, offensive line couldn't cut it, man. 42 points and 500 yards of offense, 260 rushing, 250 passing, or whatever. Like,
Right.
I feel like if the offensive line were really that big of a problem, they wouldn't have been able to move the ball as consistently as they did. Though I do acknowledge that A&M was able to get in the backfield for some key plays.
This is a good time to point out that while we do reference the PFF grades, they are not the end all be all, and they don't always influence our decisions a lot, because I, at least personally, have graded the offensive line lower in some other games. If you go look at that, both the not just that they were the lowest marks of the year in both run block and pass block, it was significant by a lot. So the pass blocking grade 54.8, the lowest that Arkansas has had up to that point was 65.9 against Notre Dame. So it's like almost 10 points lower, more than 10 points lower. And then on the run block side of things, 47.4. That's bad. I mean, that's not good at all. 55.5 against Notre Dame was the previous low there. So like they were significantly down from where they have been. And it just
doesn't match what I saw.
Man. No, it doesn't match what I saw either. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I am going to. I just want to pull up the individual block. Like, who was getting cooked here? I think
it was Corey Robinson in pass protection that they did not grade well at all.
He gave up 7 pressures. Corey Robinson did. And Mike Washington was a culprit there too, by the way. He had a 0.0 pass blocking grade.
Not good.
That's tough.
Is that not even making contact with an incoming rusher? Is that what that would be?
I guess, man. Allowed 3 pressures there. That's a rough day at the office, buddy. Good grief. Okay. Wide receivers for Arkansas. Andrew, I'll let you go first, but I'll rattle off the stats here real quick. Wow, man. 7 receptions, 118 yards, and a tutty for Omega Blake. That's a nice little day at the office there. CJ Brown, 5 catches, 38 yards. Raylan Sharp, 2 catches, 31 yards. That's it. That's the only receivers who caught a football. Now, your tight ends, and we'll lump those together. We'll do both at same. So the pass catchers here. Jaden Platt had 1 reception, one hell of a reception. That 4-yard catch laid out the touchdown reception there. Rohan Jones had 2 catches for 52 yards. He caught the 2-point conversion. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
Rohan Jones did on the shovel.
Yeah. So nice couple plays there from the tight ends, but yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that only 3 receivers caught passes, although it's kind of wild, man. You got 8 targets and 7 receptions for Omega Blake. Nice work. 9 targets for CJ Brown. And he had the 5 catches there. 7 targets for Mike Washington. And yeah, so there you have it. Anyway, what do you think about the receivers?
It's become a very clear formula, and we've referenced this a lot on this very program, that like you always have Omega Blake kind of sets the tone with his 70, 80 yards, whatever. Today it was 118. And then everyone else, it's like 30 from Jaylen Brown, 30 from CJ Brown, 30 from Raylan Sharp, maybe 30 from one of the tight ends. That's usually about how it lays out. Of course, Jaylen Brown broke his leg, not involved in this game. That formula of Arkansas's pass catching has gotten pretty. You've got your 3 starting receivers, you've got your 2 tight ends, maybe you're running back here and there, but they're not going to throw it to 9 different guys. They're not going to mix in a ton of different wide receivers, but I thought the guys that did fill in did their job. I mean, Raylan Sharp had a couple huge 3rd down receptions, one of which wasn't actually a conversion, but it turned a 3rd and 20 into a 4th and 1 that Arkansas wound up not getting. But like I thought all the guys who caught passes had their moments. It was one of the better games from Omega Blake, who really has just been consistently very solid. Like, we don't talk about Omega Blake a ton because he's kind of a guy we know is good. There's not much discrepancy of like, oh, is this guy good? The guy's consistently just a wide receiver 1 for Arkansas. Been awesome. I thought the tight ends were good. I don't really have anything to knock them with, so I'm going A- for them as well. I guess you could just say, hey, those other guys outside of Omega Blake really didn't like do anything crazy, so maybe that's it. But I thought Arkansas had no issues with their pass catchers in this game.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, man. I think I'm inclined to go A. I'm looking at it right now on PFF. I don't recall any drops. Well, okay, Mike Washington had a drop, but he's
He
a
did,
running
and I
back.
remember
So
it too. It was like a
yeah,
third and whatever, 3rd and 30 at their own goal line, and he
that's
drops
right.
it. Okay.
But yeah, everything else pretty solid there. Yeah, screw it, man. I'll give him an A. Shout out to Omega. That's not his first 100-yard game, is it?
No, he's had at least one
He's
or two other ones.
Yeah, that was a hell of a job on his part. Felt like he was open at all times. He's been everything they needed him to be. So
By
yeah,
the way,
shout out
Omega
to
Blake, number 3 in the SEC, 582
beautiful.
yards, and he's less than 100 yards away from leading the league. So it's like this is a guy that could very well, if Arkansas decides to force feed him, could very well wind up being a first or second team All SEC type of guy.
Love that. Absolutely love it. Let's move on to the defense, and we'll I have a feeling this is going to be quicker because what is there left to say about all this? Okay, let's get this out of the way now before everybody hops in the comments. Arkansas gets an A for effort. Bravo. That's more than we can say for the last guy. I'm done passing out trophies for playing hard. It's just what you're supposed to do. I'm glad they're doing that now. That's awesome. Looks better than it did against Notre Dame. Okay, let's talk football now. Defensive line. Listen, man, I'm gonna go D. And the reason I'm not gonna go F here is because they had to get more than 24 snaps from guys who just, no disrespect, I promise, shouldn't be playing. Just guys who shouldn't have to be in there. And it's in a way, it's Arkansas's fault for the way that they recruited. And we knew defensive line depth was going to be a big issue. It doesn't help that both David Oki and Danny Saili were out with injuries, the two guys who were supposed to be your, two guys in your two deep there. And so you had to make some adjustments. I don't know how I'm supposed to evaluate when you're playing an SEC football game, a grinder against a team like Texas A&M with an excellent offensive line. And, Frank Mulipola, we haven't even seen him, this year. Caleb James out there, we haven't seen him this year. You had the freshman Kevin Otis out there. I think he's going to be a really good player, but he's a true freshman in there. And like, you're leaning on those guys to play big snaps for you. And you still had Ian Drafard playing nearly 70 snaps in this football game. Like that's tough, man. And they were just not going to be in a good position to succeed. And it showed. Arkansas didn't get any pressure on Marcel Reed whatsoever. I'm positive they didn't sack him. I don't know how many times they hit him. If they did, not a whole hell of a lot there. The run game, A&M, it's not that explosive of an offense, but man, they're efficient. If you need 4 yards, they're going to get you 5. And if you need to just move the sticks and grind out a 7-minute touchdown drive, that's exactly what they're going to do. And whether it was Reuben Owens or Emmett Smith Jr. or whatever the kid's name is, they seem to get pretty much whatever they want there. Not a good performance, but I am aware of the situation that those guys were in going into it. So I'm going to go D.
Yeah, I'm good with D as well. I think listen, we don't have to redo the conversation of how bad the defensive line depth is. We know,
Sure.
as you mentioned earlier, that Corey Robinson allowed 7 pressures as the Arkansas left tackle. Arkansas's defense generated 7 total pressures, and Marcel Reed threw 32 passes, and he also had some design kind of scrambles. So in about 30 to 35 pass plays, you generated 7 total pressures, 0 sacks. And those pressures, I think, are actually kind of generous. It's just not great, man. And I think it'd be one thing, Curtis, if it was like, hey, because like last year, Arkansas's defensive line, their starting defensive line, had Landon Jackson, Cam Ball, Eric Gregory, and then kind of June Kaj or Quincy Rhodes kind of there. Like that was a solid starting defensive line, but then just no depth behind them. The problem with this year is that I think the Arkansas starting defensive line, Quincy Rhodes is a good player, and he's the one that I would say is the only one that's above average. Even the starting defensive line is like one of the worst groups in the SEC. And so it's like when your starting point is a bottom tier defensive line, and then you have literally zero depth on top of that, it's just a really bad recipe. And I mean, it's hard to consistently make things happen in college football if you are that bad at the line of scrimmage at the point of attack, and teams are just kind of able to impose their will. You mentioned how A&M, like their offense just kind of is efficient and they know where to go with the football. Man, it's easy to look that way. I mean, not easy to look that way, but man, when you're facing Arkansas, it just doesn't seem like they're going to disrupt anything you have going. I don't have anything else to say about the D line. I'm good with the solid D as well.
Yeah, the only thing I'll point out that continues to be a little bit surprising to me. I think about like Justice Boone, for example. They've been rotating him inside quite a bit. So my
One
thought
of his
process
better
is,
games.
my thought process is if you're doing that, there should be some more opportunity on the outside. But Philip Lee continues to not play, and he got 4 snaps in this game. Just seemed very productive, or at least frequently in the backfield for Arkansas in some of the early games. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it was it's an injury thing or an attitude thing, or like I see Charlie Collins, for example, his snap count continues to rise, so maybe he's just past him or something like that. But I just remember multiple games early in the season being here doing this and being like, man, Philip Lee, he's a specialist, but he can affect the quarterback a little bit, and we just don't see him. And I think that's a little bit surprising to me. And his snaps have just fallen off a cliff since the regime change.
Well, and it's weird because Boone early in the year was the guy that we didn't see a ton of. Boone
Yeah.
in fall camp was the guy that we were like, oh yeah, it's going to be a stud, and then we knew that it was going to be him and Philip Lee would rotate there. It is weird how they seem to play one or the other. They don't seem to ever rotate them, split the snaps or anything like that. There was a point where Philip Lee led the SEC in pressures through like 3 weeks or whatever, but I was like, man, you're right. He was absolutely like a positive factor on a bad defensive line, and now he's just a complete non-factor.
Yeah, very, very strange. Okay, linebackers, Andrew, I'll give the floor to you first here. Diagnose what we saw from what we long ago believed to be the strength of this defense.
I'm going D plus. So still bad, but I'm going D plus. Just because I did think that you mentioned the effort. You could at least tell those guys were trying. Xavier Sorey, who was supposed to be Arkansas's kind of like leader, captain on defense, still not playing great football, but he's at least out there like running, and I see him making some effort plays and catching guys from behind, and I'm like, oh, okay, the effort's still there, but it's still a huge weak spot, which we really didn't see coming into the season. But I think you've seen these other SEC play callers and these teams that have good athletes at running back, tight end, receiver. They look at Arkansas's linebackers and they see matchups that they would like to exploit. And they do a lot. I mean, there were a lot of times A&M on third downs would just find their running backs, and it would just be very simple of like a swing route or just dump it right off to them. Like they knew, hey, our running backs are more athletic. And by the way, this is without Le'Veon Moss, their All-American, future draft pick. They're just like, hey, our guys are just way more athletic than these linebackers. These linebackers are slow, and if we just beat them to the edge, it's a race. We'll beat them there every time. I think Arkansas's linebackers are not horrible. They're not completely quitting on the team, but they also don't do much in terms of offering resistance for opposing run games. Occasionally they'll shoot a gap and make a play, but it's there's not much you can really count on with that linebacker room. I think the entire front seven just substantially deficient.
Yeah, I'll I'm with you. I'll go D for that group. I had somebody shoot me some DMs and throughout the course of the game, sitting in the north end zone, and he messaged me and said he's like, I can never remember seeing a group of linebackers that's just slower to react on a play-by-play basis in Arkansas. He was like, it's like Madden, but you're buffering, and like you're already 2 seconds into the play before you can get your guy to move. And I thought about that, and then I was watching. I was like, you know what? I kind of see it. It's really interesting.
There was a play, Curtis, where they showed I want to say it was like I don't know if it was second or third down, but it was kind of one of those like stretch plays, like kind of a zone blocking scheme, and the running back has a cutback lane, and the running back wound up finding that cutback lane super early. You want to talk about your eyes being in the right place. Xavier Sorey kind of could see the way the offensive line was moving, and so he's like, oh, okay, stretch play. I'm going to just drift over here and keep my eyes over here. And you see the running back just dart right across his face and forward for about 6 or 7 yards in a conversion. And it's like, again, it's like he can almost diagnose the play and almost see where it's going, but he's too slow to actually get there and then really get there and make the running back make a decision is what you want to do. Just kind of, you're right, like slow to react, and they're always reacting to what the offense is doing and not putting pressure on the offense and disrupting their rhythm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it there. They're also just it's weird because I feel like they're an athletic group, but they just look so unathletic out there. Their lateral movement, if a running back just makes a cut on them, it's ankle city, and we kept hearing about that throughout the course of the game on the broadcast. Okay, sure, whatever. Defensive backs, I'm gonna go D-. Marcel Reed is I don't know, he just doesn't strike me as the type of guy that should be. Was he even 60% on the year completions coming into this one? And he was kind of dicing it up there. Now, Texas A&M does have, and let me go ahead and preface, part of it is you had no pressure on Marcel. He's completely comfortable back there. So you give anybody time to take their shots, they're going to be able to do that. I understand that. KC Concepcion's really good. He's super fast, athletic. That was going to be a tough cover anyway. Same thing with Mario Craver. Former almost once upon a time Razorback Ashton Bethel Roman cooked them. It's just they continue to see. It's weird because people see Arkansas in man coverage and they just look over to Kanai Walker and they go, all right, cool. Here we go. That's our guy. We're locked in right here. And it's just it was a barbecue chicken alert out there. So, I thought Texas A&M was super, super physical, whether it was their receivers or their running backs catching passes out of the backfield. Miguel Mitchell got truck sticked. Larry Worth got truck sticked. Jordan Young got, left in the, his shoes were left in the turf at one point with a little ankle breaker there. Some struggles in the tackling department as I look at it. Caleb Wooden, 3 missed tackles in this game. Miguel Mitchell, a couple missed tackles in this game. And then you let Marcel Reed really kind of pick you apart there. It's a problem area for the Razorbacks. They were trying to do some different things a little bit early on. I thought maybe they'd have some success. They didn't. So yeah, I'm going to go D- for the secondary in this particular game.
I'm going to go F+, and the plus is Julian Neal, who is very
always
physical.
Thank you.
Who is very physical, like one of the most physical corners I can remember. And is he necessarily Darrelle Revis over there? No, but he at least consistently tries and is not a guy that SEC teams look at and say, let's pick on this guy. And I just literally think everyone else in that secondary, I think Kanai Walker, no disrespect, glad he's back out there healthy. SEC teams love seeing Kanai Walker at corner for the last couple of years. Caleb Wooden is another guy that I think they really enjoy seeing. I think Jordan Young in the nickel, him versus KC Concepcion, that's tough. That is man. That is a huge. I'm honestly surprised they didn't go to him more. One thing I noticed, because you mentioned the missed tackles, I noticed A&M's running backs seeking out the DBs and having some collisions. I mean, there was a time where Miguel Mitchell got up slow after a couple of those collisions, so they would miss some tackles. Even when they were making the tackle, it felt like they were getting punked a little bit. And again, it's really not like this. It's not an effort issue, I don't believe. I don't even really think it's a scheme issue. I just think it's a dude issue. I just don't think Arkansas has SEC level players. I know it's some guys that have technically played in the SEC, but I just don't think you have guys that any other SEC team would be starting in that secondary. And this is kind of what that looks like.
Special teams. I'm just going to give them an A. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, why not? Cam Shanks had it. Well, actually, now to think about it, Cam Shanks had his first decent return that immediately got called back for hold.
Yeah.
It was like a 9-yard return, and we were like, hey, look, he looked athletic on that play. Oh, back at the 10-yard line. Shout
out to Starzik.
Starzik's good.
Devin Bell, I thought he was going to take off and run on that one punt.
He did have a little hezzy punt.
He should have just done it.
He did it last year against A&M. There must be something on film. Remember that next year. There's something on film that Devin Bell likes with this A&M special teams unit.
All right, folks. Hey, are you tired of juggling insurance companies just to find the right coverage? At OZK Insurance in Rogers, they make insurance simple again. As a 100% independent agency, they shop the entire marketplace to deliver the best combination of cost and coverage, saving you both time and money. Whether it's home, auto, boat, motorcycle, life, or commercial insurance, their friendly team has access to a wide range of flexible options designed just for you. Serving Northwest Arkansas and Central Arkansas, let OZK Insurance be the trusted advisor you never knew you needed. With over 600 five-star Google reviews, start today with a free online quote at ozkinsurance.com or call 479-715-4200. It's OZK Insurance, protection made simple. Okay, Andrew, real quick, our accountability session. We've really streamlined this.
We did.
Do you have the list
I do have the list that Cameron so kindly put together for us.
Just point out what we were right about, and then let's roll through those really quick there, because I think we did decent on some of these, but in other cases we look like fools.
Yeah, so John, which by the way, challenges we can't be wrong about, because it's not like if we challenge a guy and he doesn't step up to the challenge, that's his fault, not ours. John challenged Xavier Sorey, who did lead Arkansas in tackles, so feel about that how you want. You challenged Taylon Green specifically to avoid a killer type play, and he didn't fumble the ball, he didn't throw a pick, so technically we'll give him a pass, although some of those sacks I would qualify as killer type play. I challenged the tight ends and Jaden Platt, of course, who's a former A&M guy. I feel like they answered the challenge. I mean, Jaden Platt catches a touchdown with his one reception. Rohan Jones had 52 receiving yards once again. Like, he's a stud. I'm okay with their performance, although I wouldn't say any of those three like super definitively, stole a show or anything like that. In terms of bold predictions, Curtis, I feel like you had the big one here, the most important and impressive one we had. You called for a no fumble game in the monsoon of the century, the storm of the century, the big tornado. You were like, I think it's going to be a clean, well played game. No fumbles. There were none. So credit on that one. I predicted that Arkansas would have a lead in the fourth quarter of this game, which they did not have. They were down by 3, I believe. I think it was 38-35 in the fourth quarter. I'm counting that. It was one possession game. We're in the fourth quarter. The game's on the line. Cool. And John's bold prediction was that third and Taylon was going to make his presence known, and that that was going to be the key to this game, as Arkansas was able to have a ton of success on third down, which I don't know what their percentage ended up being. Let's see what they looked up. Looks like Arkansas goes 4 for 10 on third down, which isn't like a great percentage. That's surprising to me, because I feel like I do remember watching Taylon Green pull some things out of his arse a few times.
Yeah, it seemed like they had maybe better success than other teams have, which, the battle of an Arkansas team that's really, really good converting them versus an A&M team that's really good at not allowing it to happen. What was interesting to me was early in the game, Texas A&M, if they have a fatal flaw, if you will, on defense, is that they suck in the red zone.
Yeah.
But they were coming up with the stops in the red zone and holding Arkansas to field goals there early on. You were wondering how consequential that would wind up being there, but wound up being a good game regardless. Yeah. Think about Matt, like, shout out to Taylon Green for not fumbling the football, not throwing that just completely unnecessary interception. Some of those sacks were killers there, missed a throw, but overall I think he definitely accepted my challenge. Good call there on the tight ends, man. That's good stuff. Back-to-back plays. Those guys both had catches in the end zone over there, so that was cool. And the fumble thing. Listen, sometimes when it's just very obvious, it goes the exact opposite direction. That's how I'm going to feel about this Auburn game next weekend, where you think, man, Arkansas has been right on the verge against these really, really good teams. Auburn sucks. Jackson Arnold's, he's not any good. The Hogs are finally going to roll somebody. Oh, no, they're not. Oh, no, they're not.
It will be a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. I guarantee you that.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. If you want a bold prediction, pick Arkansas to blow them out, because it's just not what they do around these parts. But, good stuff there. And then I know our bets. I think we had a couple that we put out there. Shout out to Bet SARACEN, by the way, the number one sports betting app in Arkansas. And made a little bit of money on some of these things. I still can't get over. So John's was Mike Washington over 14.5 rushing attempts and over a half touchdown. I cannot believe he didn't get into the end zone as good as he was in this football game.
I looked this up. He got tackled inside the 10 4 times, Curtis. Inside the 10, he got tackled 4 times, one of which was at the literal 1-yard line.
It's brutal. It's just brutal.
But
Andrew, go ahead.
I was going to say, now credit to Cameron. He always just lists whichever one we say first. He lists that one as ours.
Okay.
We listed our first ones were good. You had Rohan Jones over 1.5 receptions, over 31.5 yards. He has 2 for 52. Easy work there. I mean, yards per reception merchant is what Rohan Jones is. And there were 2 Taylon ones. I think the one was the completions and attempts one, which I don't think he got. But the other one that I listed that did actually hit plus 325, Taylon over 229.5 passing yards and over 59.5 rushing yards. He got the rushing easily, which I thought was going to kind of be the one, like the shaky one. And then the passing, he had to like clinch on that final possession.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right there. And then I think to our our score predictions, you and John were closer this time, although I will say I had the 2-score margin there, very much a backdoor cover, but whatever.
Yeah,
You
you
guys are
had
right.
38-23, and then
Yeah.
me and John both had 1-point losses. I had 31-30 A&M. John had 28-27. Altogether, once again, Arkansas scores more points than we predict. I mean, it's just unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Are we all going to be in the 3 points or fewer range when we predict next week's game? I mean, it's getting ridiculous at this point, man.
Maybe 4 points I could go to, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there we
going to
go.
be a one-possession game for sure.
Yes, I can't wait to see. Shoot, man, as we're recording this now, I'm surprised it hasn't come out yet. Like what Arkansas is going to be favored by.
Actually,
Ah,
would you like an update on that front?
yeah, is it out? Okay.
According to our friends over at Bet Saracen, as of 11:03, which was 10 minutes ago, for us, not for you guys listening at home, I broke the fourth wall there. It is Arkansas is a 1-point underdog at home against Auburn.
Huh?
Dead even money line plus 100 for Arkansas. Now that this line is going to move, so
Yes,
by
it
the
is.
time you guys
It
are
is.
listening to it, I'm sure it'll already be moved a little bit. Arkansas did not open as a favorite against Arkansas, according to our friends at Bet Saracen.
Are you surprised by this?
I am a little bit. I thought Arkansas would be favored by a couple points.
I thought so too. Well, we'll see where it winds up. Okay, very interesting. We're going to move on to a new segment, but before we do, got to remind you that we're presented by our friends over at Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. If you are not set up for your Halloween lights yet, it's time, man. This is like your last call to action here. One, to get it done so you're spooky for the Halloween season here, but also to take advantage of a really cool deal that they've got going on. If you're in Northwest Arkansas or the River Valley, have Walter Christmas Lighting install and set up your house with professional Halloween and Christmas lighting like you've never seen before. They provide the materials, all the colors, all the patterns. They do the installation. They do the maintenance. They come take it down for you in January. You still have time. If you sign up for Halloween lights, you will also get your Christmas lights for 50% off. It's a really good deal. Text our guy Brett for a free estimate at 479-459-1380. You can also check out their website at walterchristmaslighting.com or like them on Facebook by scanning the QR code on your screen. It's Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas, your local holiday lighting experts. Okay, let's do a little coaching candidate vibe check update as we wrap up the show today, because we had a post-game show last night, Andrew, a post-game reaction show, literally the second things went final, and it was an hour and a half long, and we talked about the game for 20 minutes. And we let the chat, kind of take us where we're going to go on these live reaction shows, because we want people to let your feelings out after a game. And we were getting super chat after super chat after super chat, and it was all about the coaching search, baby. So we're adding that to the end of this here. What I want to do, I'm going to quickly run down the list of results from the guys on various hot boards, whatever, connected to the Arkansas job, whatever you want to say. We're not going to go full deep dive on every single guy here, because we do that on Inside Arkansas Live literally every day. But I do have a few very specific questions that I want to ask you in a couple minutes here. We'll just kind of see where this takes us. But as for the sitting head coaches over the weekend, and if I overlook something, feel free to jump in or add in. Rhett Lashley, shout out to you. SMU got that big win at Clemson. Impressive victory. John Summerall at Tulane edged out Army. That was a close one there. Late score to get the dub. Golish, our man over at South Florida, blew the doors off of FAU. Blew them out. Did what they were supposed to do. An interesting little situation there at the end of that game. We'll talk about it here in a few minutes. But I would say both those guys, Summerall and Golish, still alive for the college football playoffs. Sneakily, by the way, just don't lose again. And if you think about like what happened to Memphis, shout out Alex Mortensen for taking those dudes down.
Yeah.
Is like, could Boise sneak into that conversation now that they've been winning some games? Like, somebody's going to get it. And both of those guys are still alive there. I wonder if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing for Arkansas if one of them actually gets in and you're trying to get that guy as your head coach. But anyway, real quick, Dan Mullen got blasted by Boise State. That's what you get. Eric Morris, North Texas, handed out a ass whooping to Jeff Traylor, big time blowout win. And then GJ Kinney over at Texas State, they lost to Marshall. Good game. Might have been overtime. It was a close game there that they had. So, Andrew, of the results listed there for you, anything that stood out, change your perception, higher or lower, any candidate in particular? Where are you at?
So I would say, one, I want to give Eric Morris. You mentioned the North Texas one. I mean, 55-17 against UTSA and Jeff Traylor, who is a solid program. I've always, this, Curtis, I've always been like, I guess I would say a Jeff Traylor hater. Not Jeff Traylor hater. I've just never understood the infatuation. Like, I know Hog fans, of course, he used to work at Arkansas. He was the running backs coach under Chad Morris, an illustrious era. Hog fans have always kind of had their eye on him, and there's always been. I mean, every time I hop on the Discord and try and have a conversation, people are like, "Hey, what about Traylor? What about Traylor? What's going on? Is it too late to hire Traylor?" And I've just never understood it. And it's nothing wrong with the guy. He's doing a fine job. He's done a solid job at UTSA. I've just never understood why he would be referenced as the potential Arkansas coach, and then we made fun of how he threw himself in the Arkansas coach mix. How about Eric Morris, man, a young guy? Absolutely putting bell to ass. That was impressive to me. I don't know if it changes the way I view Eric Morris as a candidate or anything like that, but I just thought that was a good, confirming my pre-built-in bias. I got to be honest. I think Rhett Lashley is probably the one that moves the needle the most. I've been pretty low on Rhett Lashley, and a part of why I've been low on him is that most of his wins come against bad teams. And, going 7-5, 8-4 is cool. But if you lose to the 4 good teams you play, it's like, what did you really accomplish? And so I've never really known how to make that. I like seeing an example of Rhett Lashley going on the road. And I know Clemson is not typical Clemson. This wasn't DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson Clemson here. This wasn't your grandfather's
play, I don't think.
Right. Yeah. But it's like Clemson's a very talented team, a team that has more talent than SMU. This is an example of Rhett Lashley going out and beating a team that has a talent advantage over his team. I don't think there's many examples throughout his coaching tenure of that happening. And so that result is probably the one that caught my eye the most, because I'm just impressed, where I'm like, man, going on the road and winning in Clemson, even in a down year for Clemson, is impressive. And I think it's one of the few examples of Rhett Lashley really doing something, beating someone he wasn't supposed to beat. And so, I don't know if I'm now like, hey, number one, Rhett Lashley, let's do it. But that was a result that certainly caught my eye, and good to see Golish continue to take care of business. Do Golish and Summerall play, by the way?
I'm fairly
maybe they would in the title game.
Let me see here. Tulane football.
Because that's, schedule. I mean, if it is, dude, Hog fans, we might have to go live for that. We might just have to go live and watch Summerall versus Golish, Tulane versus USF.
Yeah, they do not. Tulane plays Memphis on November 7th. But Florida Atlantic, Charlotte, and Temple, UTSA next week is who they have. So, no, they do not.
I will say this in terms of the results. Tulane and John Summerall and Tulane winning in an ugly, low-scoring, weird game does not move the needle for me, because that's literally all they do. It's like they win and they're productive, but it's always this weird, you can't have a good offense. You can't be too forward-thinking with how you do it. You just gotta win ugly. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Summerall hater, but I will say, the next time I watch a game and say, man, I'm really impressed with this team, will be the first time.
No, exactly. I saw a clip of Golish last night where, they were up by 30 or whatever, and there was just some poor execution on a drive by, might even been the second team offense late in that game. And it was a 30-second clip of him just ripping the ass of 2 of his offensive players all the way down the sidelines for, got the win in hand. It was very Nick Saban-ish of how he was going at him. And I was kind of like, hell yeah, man. I like that. I like it a lot. So that got me going a little bit. He might have been, man. Yeah. Spit was flying out of his mouth. He's pretty angry there. So that was good. Yeah. I was really impressed with Lashley as well. Let's see. Okay. Few questions that I want to throw at you here. One, okay, first of all, I know we're just talking about Rhett Lashley, and I'm sure people are going to be in the comments saying, yeah, but aren't sources saying that he doesn't want to take the Arkansas job now, so he's out, whatever. We hear all that, understand all that. We're halfway through the season, and there's 6-7 weeks left before decisions are made. Other jobs are going to be open. I'm not prepared to rule anyone out at this point. Yeah. I get it. It's certain guys saying certain things. So I hear that with Lashley for sure. I'm not just going to stop talking about him because of that. I just think it's far too early to do that. I will say, and this leads me to my first question though, where do you stand, Andrew, on this Dan Mullen thing? Because he had the press conference, UNLV, whatever. I'm going to be here next year. I'm not leaving. I'm going to be coaching UNLV next. Okay, fine. But then he hops in a Arkansas Twitter community feed and calls out Mike Irwin and says, I got 0.0 interest in Arkansas. You guys need to hire Gus Malzahn. So to me, it's one thing to be like, hey, I'm not looking for other jobs. No, I'm not interested in leaving. The normal coach speak stuff. But when you go on Twitter on a random post and declare your interest as 0 and try to pawn off another coach, that makes you wonder, like, okay, is he really not interested? Did they tell him that they're not interested in him? What exactly happened here? That seems a little bit different than the standard, hey, your name's being brought up in coaching searches. How would you like to respond to that type of dialogue?
So in the last 7 days, Dan Mullen has declared, one, that he was like, I'm definitely going to be the coach at UNLV next year. Like, he was like, you guys are stuck with me. He did that bit. He also, like you said he had 0.0 interest in Arkansas. I think both of those statements are untrue. Like, frankly,
Yeah.
like I think it's a very good possibility he is not the head coach at UNLV next year. Not saying he's for sure a liar, but he's considering his options. Like, that's not, if he's trying to, I don't know why I do know why, but like, he's definitely thought about where he would coach that would not be UNLV. I mean, there's been several reports that have kind of linked him to maybe even lobbying for some of these jobs. Now, that seems to be what he took exception to, is the narrative that he's begging for the Arkansas job, which I think was Mike Irwin's maybe tweet, or maybe that's what the reference he said in that video is, that he's begging for the job. And so I'm sure he took exception to that. And he's like, no, I'm not begging for the job. Matter of fact, I have 0 interest. And listen, one, I don't take him at face value. Like, I think him saying that is a blatant lie. I think he has some level of interest, maybe not as much as was reported. But for me personally, Curtis, am I crazy for just saying, listen, I'm not like going to freak out about this. I don't care that much. Like, he's entitled to do whatever he wants, but like, I don't have any interest in you being our guy if you're going to do that right off the bat. Like, that really was enough for me to just be like, okay, see ya. Coach at UNLV, do what you got to do. We were being kind of nice, talking ourselves into like, oh yeah, I mean, the quarterback, the play call, oh, yeah. And it's like, if you want to play it like that, all right, then play it like that. Maybe you'll get a better job than Arkansas. It's very possible. I mean, he's had a job that's better than Arkansas before. Maybe he gets another one, but like, don't try and play us publicly, bro. Go take the ball and go home. Go stay at UNLV for all I care. I really it rubbed me the wrong way. Not like he shouldn't be disrespecting the program, but I'm just like, if you're even playing this game, you're not our guy.
Correct. Yeah, that's just it. And he's not that guy to be able to do that to anyone. I do think he's a good coach, and I would be happy if Arkansas wound up getting him, or at least I would have before. But it's one thing for like Coach Cal to come over from Kentucky and to do a thing where he was like, I got kicked out, but we won the game. Like just little things like that.
Level rather than being like, your program means nothing to me.
Yeah, you are not on a John Calipari level, and you're certainly not on the level right now as a head football coach to be able to discount any program whatsoever. And then to throw Gus Malzahn, like, come on, brother, like you lost me there, man. I'm sorry. What did you make about James Franklin on College Game Day? We don't have much to say about him as far as coaching a game, besides his former team went and lost to Iowa. But I mean, I thought that was interesting that he was on there. I don't think it was anything groundbreaking. I just think it was an interesting setting for them to have him on. The most notable part of that for me, I mean, it kind of got me fired up. Anybody's going to say this, and I know Penn State fans probably rolled their eyes as far back in your head as you possibly could, but he was like, hey, the goal is still the same, to win a national championship. We're just going to do it somewhere else. I'm sure they're like, okay, buddy. But it got me going a little bit. But it was more or less Nick Saban and just kind of the support he threw at James Franklin of saying, hey, no, you don't want to say it. You're going to play at PC. I think it was bullcrap that you got fired. I think they did you wrong. I think it's crazy. That speaks volumes coming from a guy like Saban. What'd you make of that interview?
So I thought it was, like you said, nothing groundbreaking. And I like that Saban, had his back and all that. And there's been a lot of people who have done that. I also, by the way, if I'm being fully honest with you, think that sometimes it can go overboard where we're like acting like James Franklin is like this crazy victim, where I'm like, he's getting paid $50 million to, not coach, and like he's going to get another job making 10 plus million. Like, I think James Franklin will be all right. But I did think that was notable, like you said, that Saban kind of stuck up for him and publicly was like, hey, I think that's BS. That's notable. My big takeaway, honestly, Curtis, is that it does seem James Franklin is pretty dead set on getting another job and getting back to work pretty quickly, which like may not sound like, breaking news or anything, but it's very, it's very common in this situation for these guys that get fired at a prominent program and get a very large buyout to sit out for a year. Jimbo Fisher, I don't think he's been 2 or 3 years now not coaching. Ed Orgeron, of course, took his time in Destin. He spent his time. It's not completely out of the realm for James Franklin to just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to spend a year going and meeting with coaches and talking to guys or doing whatever. Like a lot of guys do that. I thought it was notable that James Franklin made it clear right away. He's like, I'm going to go try and get another job as soon as I can. I'm going to try and win a national title as soon as I can, because it wouldn't have stunned me if he had just kind of laid low and stayed out of the limelight for a little bit, which is honestly maybe what I would do in his situation. But he seems like he's ready to get back to work, which I think is notable. I am skeptical that it's going to be at Arkansas, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'll save that for just a second here. One more thing, and then I've got we're gonna kind of play the entire carousel, but your Bobby meter at this point, right? Because like you said at the very top of the show, there's just this very clearly split faction, it seems like, and like we're basing off of what we see on social media and in our chats on the live streams and everything like that. Of, hey, I like the direction this is headed. Hire him now. What are we doing? Hire him now. Versus, no matter what happens, do not hire him. So, and my thought process on it, and it's like we said a little bit earlier, I just feel like it's because nothing definitive has happened. Are you playing better? Maybe. You're still having the kind of the same end result of these close losses until he either starts winning games or getting smacked around. You kind of feel stuck in this limbo. But I will say, as the losses pile up, the odds of Bobby Petrino being your head coach continue to go down. And you can like the direction he's taken things all you want to, but if he's not winning football games here, despite the situation that he's inherited, but it is what it is, I just don't see a pathway to hiring him. That's why I feel like personally, you got to win these next 2 games. That's not enough. That's a bare, like you got to win these next 2. And at a bare minimum, you got to sneak one against, Texas or LSU, Missouri, whatever, to even really be having those discussions. But where do you fall on your, where's Bobby in your pecking order, I guess, as we stand here today?
I mean, certainly still in the mix. Like, I mean, the guy who has the job right now and will have it for the next 5 games or whatever, we'll see how this thing plays out. And so I'm still like open to it. I'm still, kind of evaluating everything just like everyone else is. And nobody's changed their mind. After 2 games of Bobby, nobody that was a anti-Bobby guy is now pro-Bobby. And nobody that was pro-Bobby and wanted to hire him now no longer doesn't want to. Like, nobody has changed their mind in the last 2 weeks. But unlike everyone else, I'm not like digging my heels in. There hasn't been really anything, like you said, no notable update that has really changed things in a big way. So I think we're in the same spot we were in 2 weeks ago. And that spot was Bobby is the interim coach and he's going to be considered for the head coaching vacancy, but he's going to have to win a few football games before we can really have this as a serious conversation. And I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way. There's like, well, why should he have to do this or whatever? Would you agree that if they lose to either one of Auburn or Mississippi State, it's over? Like, you're not hiring him as your head coach. I mean, look, let me not say that it's not over. It would then put it at a very, 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 very low likelihood. I think we said it going in. I mean, going into the Bobby's 7-game tenure, we said if he wins 4 games, there's really no doubt about it. He's the head coach. If he wins 2 games or less, there's really no conversation. He's not the head coach. We felt like 3 is kind of that magic middle ground number to where it leaves it open to interpretation, where if you think about it, if Arkansas were to win 3 games down the stretch, that would be Auburn, Mississippi State, and then one of Texas, Missouri, LSU. I think if you do that, I would be very intrigued. I wouldn't necessarily be there right then where I'd be like, all right, hire him on the spot. But like, I would like at that point, I think it's a coin flip. Like, I really would think it would be. And so I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen. If they don't win 3 games down the stretch, I don't see how you have the conversation. I just think it's over. You hire someone else. You thank Bobby for his service. And I said this last night on the post game. it's very possible, guys, and I need you guys to understand this. And this is not me like trying to be the bearer of bad news or like break, act like I'm smart or anything. It is extremely possible that Bobby does a good job as the interim coach, and we all look at his work and say, man, he was handed a tough situation. He did the best he could, and, Arkansas was competitive. They won a couple games, and he still isn't going to be the guy to lead this program moving forward. Like, that is a very real possibility that I think people need to understand, that he could literally beat Auburn, beat Mississippi State, and then lose those last 3 games, and we say, oh, man, but they were tough. They were competitive. It wasn't his fault. That doesn't mean you have to hire him as your head coach full time. And so I think that's probably where this is headed. I would love to see Bobby force the issue, win a couple games he's not supposed to, and really change this conversation. But for right now, it's very unchanged, and I think he still has a lot of ground to make up in this discussion.
Yeah, and the other standpoint of this and I agree with everything you said there, that makes this interesting, and maybe in a way, if let's say he gets to that 3 wins, kind of that middle ground, no man's land type of area, something that might benefit Bobby's chances is, we live in our own vacuum of, well, what does Bobby have to do for us to hire him? Then if not, well, if we're interested in this guy and he's interested in us, then maybe if he's got the booster support or whatever, we can get him. We've got to take a look at the big picture here, and everybody else who's going to be looking for coaches, because in a lot of cases you're going to be competing with other programs there, and that's what makes this tricky. So we can play connect a candidate for a second here, and then we can wrap things up. But there are a lot of names that we've mentioned who are going to be hot commodities for other jobs. And do you put Arkansas at the top of that pecking order? I don't know that you do. So, we know the jobs that are already open out there. Virginia Tech, UCLA, Oklahoma State, Penn State. But I mean, just in the SEC alone, feels pretty likely Auburn's going to open. Feels like Florida's already open. Kentucky feels a little bit less likely because of that buyout. But if you listen to Stoops and some of the things he was saying yesterday, he gets it. He knows the writing's on the wall. I don't think they're going to fire Shane Beamer at South Carolina, but there's a very real possibility that he leaves for one of those other openings, and that becomes a thing. Florida State, starting to hear a lot about that one potentially. Wisconsin, probably going to open. And then there's the domino effect of, okay, some of these schools are going to go pluck a sitting P5 coach, looking at you, Lane Kiffin, or whoever. And then it's a question about like, okay, well then who do they go get? So this becomes more complicated than just who's a good fit at Arkansas, who likes Arkansas, who do they want to get? I guess my first question for you is, of any of those jobs we just mentioned that are open or might be coming open here, are we interested in any of those guys as bounce back candidates? I feel like James Franklin's situation is just different. Like, I don't want Hugh Freeze. I wouldn't want Mike Norvell or any of those guys. I don't know if there was somebody who you're like, maybe. But then also we might need to just connect some of these openings to some of the coaches that we're talking about here, because that's going to be something to keep an eye on also.
I think in terms of, is there a bounce back candidate outside of Franklin? I would say no. I don't look at, definitely not Virginia Tech. I don't look at Billy Napier at Florida and say, oh man, would love to take him. Don't look at Hugh Freeze.
Not a Beamer guy.
I'm not. But I just think that's unlikely also. I also think when you think about Bobby and his impact of this, if he goes out there and beats Auburn, it helps him in multiple ways, because not only does he wins a game, that helps his case. It also opens the Auburn job, which I think helps Bobby get the Arkansas job. Because if Auburn is open, Arkansas is more likely to take their ball and go home and not compete. As we know, Arkansas runs from the grind. They are not going to get into a bidding war for a coach. They are not going to compete with another school for a coach. That's just something historically they don't really do in football specifically. So I think if Bobby beats Auburn, that helps him. Of course, beating Mississippi State helps him. I think Bobby beating LSU would be another very big swing moment that could maybe get Brian Kelly to bolt. Maybe Brian Kelly takes that Penn State job, and then, LSU's left to hire. Who knows? But I think the more job openings does help Bobby's chances at becoming the Arkansas head coach. And as a Razorback fan, I'm not saying you should feel good about that. I unfortunately do think that is a fact.
Yeah, it's part of the dominoes, man. It's crazy how this all works out. Good pull there on the Brian Kelly situation. I should have brought him up, but They lost that game to Vanderbilt. Okay, Vandy's really good, but they've got a couple more really tough ones on that schedule. I don't know about, you know, a little bit more actually about the LSU situation than I do, but I don't get the sense that they would be firing Brian Kelly this year, but he could be very compelled to take one of these other jobs if things continue to kind of trend in the wrong direction for him here down the stretch of the season.
It's a little bit different because obviously Coach Cal was at Kentucky for 15
Yeah.
years, and Brian Kelly's not done that. But it's very much in that range of. I actually saw I think it was Jake Ferguson, a former LSU tight end who played for the Cowboys. He tweeted out today and was like, "Would be a real shame if someone stole our coach." Wink, wink. And like, there's been a lot of prominent LSU, Matt Moscona, doing stuff like this of basically being like, "We would love if Brian Kelly were not our head coach." The temperature is definitely hot on him. And like you said, will it be a firing? Will it be just they kind of force him to go take another job? Maybe he takes another one to save himself the embarrassment. That is always possible. And I think that's more or less what happened with Cal, right? Like he, just kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, oh, let me just find my next move. I think Brian Kelly's a strong candidate to do that. We've never felt like he was a super strong culture fit. And I just know LSU, the entire state, they are not happy. Like they're not like pitchforks ready to storm the Capitol, but nobody in LSU in Louisiana is like super thrilled about the future with Brian Kelly.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think about some of these guys like James Franklin. We talked about, I could see Florida, for example, being really compelled to wanting more of a proven commodity as opposed to what they just did with Billy Napier. I know a lot of people like naturally want to attach Golish to that. It's like, oh, South Florida to Florida. And, oh, they beat him and everything. I don't get the sense that they would go that route, but a guy like Franklin might make some sense there, or at Auburn if that opens up. Like that's the kind of places I could see him landing. Is Arkansas going to be able to compete there? I know Florida is also enamored with Rhett Lashley, so if that comes open, we'll see. Sumrall, I think if Kentucky opens, that's one you really got to look out for. I think Auburn would be very interested in that one for sure. And then Golish, again, like people want to connect him with Florida. I don't know about that. Auburn would probably be interested in that. Florida State would be one that would be interesting if it wound up opening up. So like you're going to be competing, man, with all these guys. And that's what's crazy about this, because I do, the further along we get into this, if you don't hire Bobby, I wonder, unless they go against the grain or outside the box, like unless they did the John Gruden type of thing, I know a lot of people after that, like the day after that Missouri game are going to be like, okay, well, who's our head coach? You might still be waiting a while, because that's when you're really, it depends on when these other jobs open, but you're going to be in bidding wars and negotiations, and people are going to have flashbacks to, oh, we're getting Lane Kiffin, and oh, wow, are they really in on Mike Leach? All this is happening. What about this drink? Oh, Sam Pittman? Okay. It's not going to fall that far, but you might be in a situation where you think you're hot to trot on 2 or 3 really, really solid candidates that you like, and you wind up in that next tier, unless they get their money up. So we'll see what it looks like there.
You're 100% right in that this could drag out for a long time, and the more of these jobs open up, it probably will, which is why I think it's in Arkansas's best interest. You have to connect yourself to somebody. You mentioned some of these schools connecting. You just have to generate some type of buzz of like, hey, we might hire this guy. You cannot waste the head start that you've gotten. I mean, you fired your coach after week 5 so that you would have plenty of time to make this decision. I worry that Arkansas has been doing what you and I have been doing, which is waiting to see how this plays out, which you kind of have to do at some level. But I don't think Arkansas has been making a strong effort to like push the envelope and make sure they get their guy. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's conversations going on that nobody knows about. But I am a little concerned with how little connection there is for Arkansas to literally any of these guys. In fact, there's the exact opposite, where you have coaches outright disconnecting themselves. I think it would be a really tough look if Arkansas got a head start on all these jobs, and then all these jobs open up and they start filling and being connected by other guys before Arkansas even connects themselves to one candidate.
Right. And I will say, if this was a year ago, in this situation, well, first of all, the carousel wouldn't be as hot, so it would have been more ideal, but same conditions as now, just a year ago, it'd be really unnerving, because not only would you be trying to figure out who your coach is, the portal would be open, things would be going crazy with the roster, all the good players would be getting swooped up. If there is a silver lining or a saving grace, if this does drag out a little bit longer, It's that the portal doesn't open until January now. So even if you get into the early portions of December before you make your hire, whoever that is would still have the opportunity to, I don't know, get to campus, see everyone, put a staff together, and at least have something of a plan in place before you have to build out an entire roster. There's going to be a lot of turnover no matter what they do, whether they hire Bobby. It's like, oh, well, nobody's hit the portal yet for him. Trust me, at the end of the season, if Bobby Petrino is the head coach, you're going to have a lot of guys out and a lot of newness in. Regardless of what this look like, the roster flip is going to be bonkers for the Razorbacks. And I am glad that they made this portal change, because otherwise, man, it could have been really, really tough selling. At least you're going to have an opportunity to put together you would hope, a competitive squad next year, regardless of who you get.
Yeah, and I do think it's worth noting that, like, whether it's, I mean, if they literally, like you said, if they retain Bobby, that process is still going to suck. And I think longer, like, over are the days where, like, you remember when Joe Fouché entered the transfer portal, and it was like a huge thing where it's like, whoa, a guy who was like actually playing at our school just wants to leave. I think we're now past that. We're like, it's going to happen. Like you said, when that season ends, and I know the window was open these past few days or whatever, or I guess it's still technically open. When the season ends and people actually start entering the portal, we just can no longer do that where we're like, whoa, how did this guy enter? It's like, dude, when you are hiring a new coach or you have an interim coach, or even like we know, when you keep your coach. I mean, Arkansas literally kept their coach the last 6 years and have led the country in portal exits 3 straight years. It's like, so we just kind of know this is a thing. And so I think a lot of times fans view it of like, oh, we have to hire Bobby because it'll be harder to keep these guys and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you haven't even been keeping the roster intact when you've kept the head coach. So it's like, I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, you kind of just have to be desensitized to it at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. Okay. I think we've covered it all, man. Is there any stone that we haven't turned over at this point?
My only stone that I want to unturn is, or turn, I guess I don't want to unturn it.
Yeah.
Is PJ Fleck a candidate for the Arkansas head coaching vacancy, Curtis? And the case, and he may not be. It may be as simple as, hey, Minnesota will pony up and pay him and Arkansas won't. You know, I don't know what his salary is. I think his salary is fairly manageable right now. He's now 5-2 at Minnesota. He's got Drake freaking Lindsay at quarterback. He just had a huge win over Nebraska. PJ Fleck, is he, would you row the boat?
I don't know if I'd row the boat. I can't imagine a guy in a shirt and tie on the sidelines at Arkansas. Like, he would have to
tie. It's one thing to wear a shirt and tie. Yeah. To wear an athletic jacket over it is an interesting move. He's a weird cat. Like, don't make no mistake. PJ Fleck is a weird cat, but weird cats sometimes win in sports. And I found myself kind of intrigued by him, but I don't know how. Like, I don't know if he's like a guy that's like on people's radar, if people like care about him. I just, not that I think he should be the guy. I just am surprised that like nobody has mentioned his name.
It is an interesting name. I did watch a decent amount of that game against Nebraska, and I'm not gonna lie, I was sitting there the whole time, kind of like, maybe the package deal situation there. You are going to be in the market for a quarterback, so
I mean, if Matt Rule is literally like maybe going to get the Penn State job, it seems like that's also a very real thing. If like Matt Rule is like being positioned to take on one of the best jobs in the country, the guy that just beat him and has the same record as him, I feel like should maybe be in some consideration as well, right?
Yeah, you might be in a situation here where Minnesota wins 9 games or so. I mean, that'd be a pretty impressive job on their part. We're gonna add him. Maybe we'll add him to like a dark horse or a
maybe he's a pipe dream. I don't know.
Yeah, keep one eye on our hot boards there. But all right, folks, that's gonna do it for us today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, rocking with us as always. Hope you appreciated the little coaching search segment there at the end, because we know everybody can't get enough of this kind of conversation. But for Andrew Ellis, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Subscribe where you need to get subscribed. Listen where you need to listen. And we'll be back whenever it's time to be back. Everybody have a good day. We'll see you next time.